Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. Kellen Rhodes wiped grease from his hands with the same blue shop rag he'd used for 3 years. Tuesday mornings at Rhodes Auto Repair meant checking the overnight drop-offs and planning the day's work. The mountain air in Juniper Ridge carried the scent of pine and motor oil, a combination that had become home. His boots clanked against the concrete floor as he walked toward the office. Through the window, he could see Piper's school bus rumbling down Maple Street, right on schedule. 10 years old, and she still waved at his shop every morning, even when her friends teased her about it. The phone rang twice before he reached it. Rhodes Auto. Dad. Piper's voice came through small and shaky. Kellen's hand tightened around the receiver. What's wrong? Aren't you supposed to be in first period? I'm in the nurse's office. My hair. Dad, my hair is falling out. The words hit him like a punch to the gut. What do you mean falling out? Big chunks of it. Mrs. Peterson found me crying in the bathroom. There's so much hair, Dad. I'm scared. Kellen was already grabbing his keys. I'm coming to get you. Don't touch anything else. Just sit still. He locked the shop and drove the 4 blocks to Juniper Ridge Elementary faster than he should have. The school's secretary, Mrs. Elmore, buzzed him in with the same fake smile she'd worn since Piper started kindergarten. She's in the nurse's office, Mr. Rhodes. Poor little thing. Kellen found Piper sitting on the examination table, her small hands clutched in her lap. Dark brown hair lay scattered across her shoulders and the paper beneath her. When she looked up, her eyes were red from crying. Dad, look. She held up a clump of hair the size of a golf ball. Kellen's throat went dry. He'd seen his share of problems in 37 years, but nothing had prepared him for this. His daughter's hair, which had always been thick and healthy, was coming out in handfuls. How long has this been happening? It started this morning when I was brushing it. Then more fell out during math class. The school nurse, a tired-looking woman named Janet Hicks, approached them with a clipboard. Mr. Rhodes, I think you should take her to see Dr. Talcott. This isn't normal hair loss for a child. Kellen nodded, his mind racing through possibilities. Had you been sick? Stressed about something? He wrapped his arm around Piper's shoulders. Come on, kiddo. Let's go see the doctor. Am I going to be okay? Piper's voice was barely a whisper. Of course you are. The words came out harder than he intended. We're going to figure this out. Dr. Mira Talcott had been Juniper Ridge's primary physician for over 20 years. Her office smelled like antiseptic and coffee, with diplomas covering one wall and family photos covering another. She examined Piper with gentle efficiency while Kellen paced near the window. When did you first notice the hair loss? Dr. Talcott asked, running her fingers through what remained of Piper's hair. This morning, Piper said, but I've been feeling tired lately, and my stomach hurts sometimes. What kind of stomach ache? Sharp or dull? Like when you're really nervous, but all the time. Dr. Talcott made notes on her chart. Any changes in appetite? Sleep patterns? Kellen stopped pacing. She's been picking at her dinner for the past week. I thought she was just being picky. I haven't been hungry much, Piper admitted. Mr. Rhodes, I like to run some blood tests. Hair loss this sudden in a healthy child could indicate several things, but I want to be thorough. 2 hours later, Dr. Talcott called Kellen back in her office while Piper waited in the examination room. The doctor's expression had changed from concern to grim. Mr. Rhodes, please sit down. Just tell me what's wrong with my daughter. Dr. Talcott placed the lab results on her desk. The blood work shows elevated levels of thallium in Piper's system. It's a toxic metal that can cause exactly the symptoms she's experiencing. Thallium? What the hell is that? It's used in some industrial processes, but it's extremely dangerous. The levels in Piper's blood indicate she's been exposed to it recently and repeatedly. Kellen felt the room tilt. Exposed how? That's what we need to figure out. Thallium poisoning doesn't happen by accident, Mr. Rhodes. Someone has been giving this to your daughter. The word someone hung in the air like smoke. Kellen's hands clenched into fists. You're saying someone poisoned my little girl. I'm saying the evidence suggests deliberate exposure. We need to identify the source immediately and begin treatment. Treatment for what? Dr. Talcott's voice stayed steady, professional. Thallium poisoning can cause permanent nerve damage, kidney problems, and in severe cases, death. The good news is we caught it early. Kellen stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. Who would do this? Who would poison a 10-year-old kid? I don't know, but we need to think about everywhere Piper has been, everything she's eaten, everyone she's been around. She's only at school or home. That's it. Then we start with those two places. Kellen spent the next morning going through every inch of their small house. He checked the water pipes, tested the well water, examined every food item in their pantry and refrigerator. Nothing. The house had been his sanctuary for the past 5 years, ever since he'd bought it after the divorce. No way the poisoning happened here. That left school, Juniper Ridge Elementary, sat on a hill overlooking the town, a brick building that had educated 3 generations of local kids. Kellen parked in the visitor's lot and walked through the front doors with purpose. I need to speak with Principal Latch, he told Mrs. Elmore. Do you have an appointment? My daughter was poisoned. Make time. Mrs. Elmore's fake smile faltered. She picked up her phone and whispered into it. 5 minutes later, Vernon Latch appeared in the hallway. Latch was a man who wore expensive suits to work at an elementary school. His handshake was too firm, his smile too practiced. Everything about him screamed politician. Mr. Rhodes, I heard about Piper. Terrible situation. Please come into my office. Latch's office was designed to impress. Awards and certificates lined the walls, along with photos of him shaking hands with various local dignitaries. He gestured to a chair across from his mahogany desk. Coffee? Water. My daughter has thallium in her blood. Someone poisoned her. Latch's expression shifted to what Kellen assumed was supposed to be concern. That's a very serious accusation. It's not an accusation. It's a fact. Dr. Talcott ran the tests. Of course. But surely you don't think the school had anything to do with this. Where else would it happen? She's here 7 hours a day. Latch leaned back in his chair. Mr. Rhodes, I understand you're upset. Any parent would be. But you need to consider other possibilities. Stress at home, environmental factors, perhaps something in your workshop. There's nothing in my shop that would poison her. Sometimes these things happen gradually. Old paint, contaminated soil, even household cleaners can cause problems. Kellen felt his temper rising. You're not listening. Someone deliberately gave my daughter poison. That's a very disturbing allegation. I hope you're not planning to spread rumors that could damage the school's reputation. The threat was subtle but clear. Kellen leaned forward. Are you more worried about your reputation or my daughter's life? Of course I'm concerned about Piper. She's a wonderful student, but false accusations help no one. Then prove it. Let me check her classroom, the cafeteria, anywhere she spends time. I'm afraid I can't allow that without proper authorization. There are protocols, liability issues. Kellen stood up. Then get authorization. Mr. Rhodes, I think you should focus on your home environment. Perhaps consult with a specialist about stress-related hair loss. The doctor said it was thallium poisoning. Doctors can be wrong. Sometimes parents see problems that aren't really there. The condescension in Latch's voice made Kellen's jaw clench. He'd heard that tone before, from teachers who thought mechanics were too stupid to understand their own kids. Someone in this school poisoned my daughter. I'm going to find out who. Mr. Rhodes, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. If you continue making unfounded accusations, I'll have no choice but to contact the authorities. Kellen walked to the door, then turned back. You do that. Call them. Ask them to investigate a child poisoning case. He left Latch staring after him. That evening, Kellen sat with Piper at their kitchen table while she picked at her grilled cheese sandwich. Her hair had continued falling out throughout the day, leaving patchy bald spots across her scalp. Dad, why is this happening to me? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. Am I going to die? The question hit him like a physical blow. No. Dr. Talcott says we caught it early. You're going to be fine. Promise. Promise. Piper took a small bite of her sandwich. Can I tell you something? Always. Miss Dawson has been giving us special treats after class. She says there are vitamins to help us stay healthy. Kellen's hand stopped halfway to his coffee cup. What kind of treats? Little white pills. She says the school district sent them to help kids who don't eat enough vegetables. How long has she been doing this? Maybe 2 weeks? She only gives them to some kids, not everyone. Which kids? Me, Tommy Brennan, Lucy Martinez, and a few others. She says we're the special ones who need extra help. Kellen felt something cold and sharp settle in his chest. Piper, I need you to think carefully. Have you taken any of these pills? Every day after math class. Miss Dawson says they taste bad, but they'll make us stronger. What do they taste like? Bitter. Really bitter. But Miss Dawson says that means they're working. Kellen's phone was in his hand before he realized he'd reached for it. He dialed Dr. Talcott's emergency line. Dr. Talcott? It's Kellen Rhodes. I think I found the source. Reva Dawson taught 4th grade in the same classroom where she'd started 15 years ago. The walls were covered with motivational posters and student artwork, creating the kind of environment parents expected from their children's teachers. She was grading papers when Kellen knocked on her open door the next morning. Miss Dawson, I'm Kellen Rhodes, Piper's father. Reva looked up with the practiced smile of someone who dealt with parents daily. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe early 30s, with brown hair pulled back in a neat bun. Of course, Mr. Rhodes. Piper is such a bright girl. How can I help you? I need to ask you about the vitamin supplements you've been giving her. The smile flickered for just a moment. Vitamin supplements? Piper told me you've been giving selected students special pills after class. White pills that taste bitter. Reva set down her red pen. Oh, those. Yes, the district sent them over a few weeks ago. They're just basic multivitamins for students who might have nutritional deficiencies. Which students? I'm not comfortable discussing other children's medical information. My daughter is in the hospital with thallium poisoning. I need to know who else might be affected. Thallium? That's impossible. These are just vitamins. Show me the bottle. I don't think that's appropriate. Kellen stepped into the classroom. Miss Dawson, my daughter's hair is falling out because someone poisoned her. If it's not your vitamins, then prove it. Reva's hands trembled slightly as she opened her desk drawer. She pulled out a white plastic bottle with no label. Here, see? Just multivitamins. Kellen examined the bottle. No manufacturer information, no ingredient list, no FDA approval numbers. Where did you get this? Principal Latch gave it to me. He said the district was testing a new supplementation program. Did you ask to see any documentation? Principal Latch wouldn't give me anything that wasn't approved. Have you taken any of these yourself? Of course not. They're specifically formulated for children. Kellen pocketed the bottle. I'm taking this to be tested. You can't just take school property. Watch me. Mr. Rhodes, you're being unreasonable. These are just vitamins. Maybe Piper was exposed to something at home. Everyone keeps saying that. Funny how no one wants to consider that maybe the school screwed up. I would never hurt a child. I've been teaching for 15 years. Then explain why my daughter has poison in her blood. Reva stood up, her chair scraping against the linoleum. I think you should leave. If you have concerns about the supplements, take them up with Principal Latch. I already did. He suggested I look at my house. Maybe you should. That night, Kellen waited until the school was empty before returning to the building. The janitor, an old man named Pete Kruger, had always been friendly. More importantly, Pete had a grandson in Piper's class. Hey, Pete, working late. Every night, Mr. Rhodes. How's Piper doing? Heard she was sick. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Someone's been poisoning kids at this school. Pete stopped mopping. Poisoning? Miss Dawson has been giving out pills she says are vitamins. Piper ended up in the hospital. Jesus. My grandson Tommy mentioned getting special medicine from his teacher. Tommy Brennan? Piper said he was getting the pills too. That's him. Been feeling sick lately. His mom thought it was just a cold. Pete, I need to get into Miss Dawson's classroom. Just for a few minutes. Pete looked around the empty hallway. I didn't see nothing. Kellen found Reva's desk unlocked. Inside the bottom drawer, behind a stack of lesson plans, was another bottle of the white pills. This one had a label, Property of Viacura Labs, Test Batch 7A. He photographed the label with his phone and pocketed the bottle. As he was leaving, he noticed a file cabinet in the corner. The top drawer was labeled District Communications. Inside, he found memos from Principal Latch about the nutritional supplementation pilot program. The paperwork looked official, complete with district letterhead, but something felt wrong. The language was too formal, too clinical for a simple vitamin program, 3.1 memo caught his attention. Please ensure test subjects maintain consistent dosing schedule. Report any adverse reactions immediately to Viacura Labs contact person. Test subjects, not students. Test subjects. Romy Jessup had been waiting for a story like this for 3 years. Once an award-winning investigative journalist for the Denver Post, she now freelanced from a small apartment in Juniper Ridge, chasing local corruption stories that bigger papers ignored. She found Kellen at his auto shop the next morning, working under the hood of a pickup truck with mechanical intensity. "Mr. Rhodes? I'm Romy Jessup. I heard about what happened to your daughter." Kellen slid out from under the truck, wrench in hand. "Who are you?" "I'm a journalist. I think your daughter's poisoning might be part of something bigger. Not interested in talking to reporters. I'm not here to exploit your family. I'm here because 2 years ago, this school quietly settled a lawsuit involving a teacher's aide and a sick child." Kellen wiped his hands on his shirt. "What kind of lawsuit?" "A third grader named Amy Winters got sick after participating in what the school called a wellness program. Her parents sued, claiming the school gave her experimental drugs without consent. What happened? The school paid them $50,000 to keep quiet and go away. The family moved to Utah 6 months later." "How do you know about this?" "I covered local court filings for my freelance work. The settlement was public record, but the details were sealed." Kellen set down his wrench. "You think someone's been experimenting on kids?" "I think your daughter isn't the first victim. Can you show me what you found at the school?" Kellen hesitated, then pulled out his phone. He showed her the photos of the Viacura Labs bottles and the memos. "Viacura Labs," Romy said, her voice sharpening. "I've heard that name before. Where?" "There were rumors about them a few years ago. Something about using developing communities for drug trials. Nothing ever got proven." "What kind of drug trials?" "The kind that skip FDA approval and parental consent." They spent the next 2 hours in Kellen's office, with Romy's laptop open between them. She showed him corporate filings, news articles, and regulatory complaints that painted a picture of Viacura Labs as a company that operated in legal gray areas. "Look at this," Romy said, pointing to a document on her screen. "Viacura specializes in pediatric supplements and cognitive enhancers. They've been fined twice by the FDA for conducting unauthorized trials. Why would they target kids in Juniper Ridge? Small town, tight-knit community, people trust the school system. Perfect testing environment. But how did they get access to the school?" Romy pulled up another document. "According to corporate filings, Viacura has a consulting contract with the Juniper Ridge School District, signed by Principal Vernon Latch 3 months ago." Kellen felt his anger crystallizing into something colder and more focused. "So Latch knew exactly what those pills were." "It looks that way. The question is how deep this goes and how many kids are involved. I want names. Every kid who got those pills, every adult who knew about it. That's going to require more digging. School records, medical files, financial documents. Then we dig. Mr. Rhodes, I need to warn you about something. If Viacura is running illegal trials, they have lawyers and money. This could get dangerous." Kellen's jaw tightened. "They poison my daughter. I don't care how dangerous it gets." "Okay, but we do this carefully, methodically. We build a case that sticks. How long will that take? A few weeks, maybe more. My daughter might not have weeks. Then we work faster." The independent lab results came back on a Thursday morning. Kellen read them twice before calling Dr. Talcott. The pills contained thallium sulfate and something called compound X47, he told her. "I've never heard of X47, Dr. Talcott said. "But thallium sulfate is definitely what's making Piper sick." "What's it supposed to do?" "Thallium was used as a rat poison for decades before it was banned. In small doses, it causes hair loss, nausea, and neurological problems. In larger doses, it's lethal. So someone was slowly poisoning my daughter. It appears that way. Mr. Rhodes, I think you need to contact the police." I tried. They said it was a school matter and told me to work with the administration. Then contact the state health department. This is a public health emergency. Kellen hung up and immediately called Romy. "We need to move faster. The lab confirmed thallium in the pills. I was about to call you. I found something you need to see." They met at the town diner, a place where conversations could get lost in the noise of locals eating lunch. Romy spread papers across their corner booth. I did some digging into why Viakura chose Juniper Ridge. Look at this. She showed him a property map with his auto shop circled in red. 2 years ago, Viakura tried to buy your land. They wanted to build a research facility here. I never heard anything about that because they went through intermediaries. A company called Mountain Development Group made the offer. Kellen remembered. Those guys, they offered me twice what the place was worth. I told them I wasn't selling. Mountain Development is a shell company owned by Viakura. When you refused to sell, they found another way to get what they wanted. By poisoning my daughter, I think they targeted her specifically. If you lost your business fighting medical bills, you'd be forced to sell. The realization hit Kellen like a physical blow. His daughter wasn't a random victim. She was a deliberate target in a scheme to steal his property. Those bastards. There's more. I tracked down the Winters family in Utah. They agreed to talk if I promised not to use their names. What did they say? Their daughter Amy was given pills for 6 weeks before she got sick. The school told them it was a vitamin deficiency program. Amy ended up in the hospital with liver damage. Did they know about Viakura? Not until after they filed the lawsuit. That's when the school's lawyers offered them a settlement in exchange for silence. How many other kids? Amy's parents think at least a dozen kids were in the program. Most families never connected their children's illnesses to the school. Kellen's hands clenched around his coffee cup. We need to go public with this. I'm working on a story, but I need more sources. Someone on the inside who can confirm the details. What about confronting Latch directly? That could backfire. If we spook him, he might destroy evidence. Then what do you suggest? There's a school board meeting tomorrow night. Public comment period. If I ask the right questions in front of the whole community, Latch won't be able to dismiss it. You think he'll crack? I think he'll make mistakes. Guilty people always do. The next evening, Kellen sat in the back of the school auditorium while Romy stood at the podium during public comments. The school board members looked bored, like they were waiting for her to finish complaining about lunch prices or playground equipment. I'm here to ask about the nutritional supplementation program that's been running at the elementary school, Romy said. Principal Latch shifted in his seat. I'm not sure what you're referring to. The program where selected students receive vitamin supplements from their teachers. I have documentation showing these pills contain dangerous chemicals. Board President Janet Murphy leaned forward. This is the first we've heard of any supplementation program. Latch stood up. Ms. Jessup, you're clearly confused. We don't have any such program. Then how do you explain these? Romy held up the labeled pill bottles. The auditorium went quiet. Parents started whispering to each other. Kellen watched Latch's face go red. Those bottles are fake, Latch said. This woman is a disgraced journalist trying to create controversy where none exists. I'm disgraced. Romy's voice carried across the room. You're the one poisoning children. That's a slanderous accusation. Security, please escort this woman out. I'm within my rights to speak during public comment. Not when you're making false accusations against school personnel. The security guard, a part-time deputy named Rick Paulson, approached Romy reluctantly. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is exactly what they did to the Winters family 2 years ago, Romy called out as Paulson escorted her toward the exit. They covered up another child poisoning case with money and threats. The auditorium erupted in confused voices. Parents demanded explanations. Board members looked at each other in panic. Latch tried to call for order, but his voice was lost in the chaos. Kellen left during the commotion, but he'd seen what he needed. Latch was scared, and scared people made mistakes. The next morning, Kellen got the call he'd been dreading. Mr. Rhodes? This is Janet Hicks at the school. Piper collapsed during recess. The ambulance is taking her to the hospital. Piper lay unconscious in the hospital bed, her small body dwarfed by machines and tubes. Dr. Talcott had explained the situation in clinical terms. Acute thallium poisoning, possible organ damage, uncertain prognosis. The words washed over Kellen like noise. His daughter might die because some corporate executives wanted his land. Romy found him in the hospital waiting room at 3 in the morning, staring at nothing. How is she? They don't know yet. Her kidneys are struggling. I'm sorry. This is my fault. I pushed too hard at the school board meeting. No. Kellen's voice was flat, emotionless. This started long before you got involved. The good news is people are paying attention now. 3 more parents came forward today. Their kids were in the supplement program too. Good for them. Kellen, we can use this. Build a case, expose everyone involved. A case takes time. Lawyers, judges, appeals. My daughter doesn't have time. Romy sat down beside him. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about a man named Kelby Ordain. Who's that? Former Viacura employee. I found his name in some of the corporate filings you showed me. He filed a whistleblower complaint against the company 6 months ago. Where is he now? Living in a trailer park outside Denver. Unemployed, probably broke. How do you know all this? Kellen looked at her for the first time since she'd arrived. Because I drove to Denver yesterday and found him. You what? While you were working on your story, I was working on mine. Romy stared at him. What did you do? I offer him a choice. Help me expose Viacura, or I'd make sure everyone knew he was the one who designed their illegal testing protocols. Is that true? Does it matter? He believed it. What did he tell you? Kellen pulled out a small digital recorder. Everything. Names, dates, financial records. Viacura has been running unauthorized drug trials in 4 states. Juniper Ridge was just the latest. Jesus, this is huge. It gets better. Ordain kept copies of everything when they fired him. Internal emails, test results, financial records showing payments to school officials. You have proof that Latch was paid. $30,000 over 3 months. Officially listed as consulting fees. Romy's eyes widened. We can end this. Expose the whole network. We can do more than that. Something in Kellen's voice made her lean back. What do you mean? Ordain also told me something interesting about Viacura's research. They've been developing a new compound called X47. It's supposed to enhance cognitive function in children. The same compound that was in the pills, right? But here's the thing. X47 is unstable. Mix it with certain common substances, and it becomes highly toxic. What kind of substances? The kind you might find in a high school chemistry lab. Romy was quiet for a long moment. Kellen, what are you planning? I'm planning to give Principal Latch exactly what he deserves. You can't take the law into your own hands. The law failed my daughter. The police won't investigate. The school board is corrupt. The state health department is moving too slowly. So you're going to do what? I'm going to make sure that everyone who hurt Piper pays for it. And what happens to you? What happens to Piper if you get arrested? Kellen looked back toward the intensive care unit. If she dies, it won't matter. She's not going to die. You don't know that. Romy grabbed his arm. Listen to me. I've been where you are. I've wanted revenge so badly it consumed everything else. It doesn't bring them back. It doesn't make things right. Maybe not. But it makes sure they can't hurt anyone else. The next morning, Kellen returned to his auto shop and opened the hidden panel behind his tool cabinet. Inside was a sophisticated recording system he'd installed 3 years ago when Viacura's shell company first approached him about buying his property. The microphones were wired throughout his building and the surrounding land, activated by motion sensors and voice detection. For 3 years, he captured every conversation that took place on or near his property, including the meetings where Viacura representatives had made veiled threats about what might happen if he continued to refuse their offers. The recordings were extensive. Conversations between Viacura executives and their local representatives, discussions about problematic property owners, and detailed plans for using the school system to pressure families into selling their land. In one particularly damaging conversation, a Viacura executive named Dr. Patricia Voss discussed Piper specifically. The mechanic's daughter would be perfect for the enhanced dosing protocol. Single father, limited resources, strong emotional attachment. If something happens to her, he'll be too distracted to fight the property acquisition. Enhanced dosing protocol. They'd deliberately given his daughter a higher concentration of poison. Kellen copied the recordings to multiple drives and prepared an anonymous package for Romy. She didn't need to know where the information came from. She just needed to publish it. But first, he had one more task to complete. Kellen waited 3 days before making his move. long enough for Romy to receive and process the anonymous package of documents and recordings he'd left at her apartment door. Long enough for her to verify their authenticity and prepare her story. While she worked, Kellen prepared his own plan. The school's chemistry lab was easy to access during lunch hours when most teachers were in the faculty lounge. Kellen had learned the building's security patterns from Pete Kruger, who was more than willing to help after his grandson Tommy tested positive for thallium exposure. In the chemistry lab, Kellen found what he needed, compounds that would react with X-47 to create an even more concentrated poison. Using Ordain's technical specifications, he carefully prepared a batch of pills that looked identical to the ones Riva had been distributing. The difference was that these pills contained enough poison to hospitalize an adult within hours. That night, Kellen broke into Principal Latch's office using a key he'd copied weeks earlier during a parent conference. He planted the modified pills in Latch's desk drawer, along with a forged email from Viacura instructing him to escalate the dosing protocol on selected test subjects. The next morning, Romy's story went live. Anonymous sources expose illegal drug testing in Colorado Elementary School, dominated news cycles within hours. The story included Ordain's leaked documents, financial records showing Viacura's payments to school officials, and most damaging of all, excerpts from the property recordings. But it was the recordings that made the story explosive. Viacura executives caught on tape discussing the deliberate targeting of children, the enhanced dosing protocols, and their plans to pressure families into selling land through systematic poisoning. In one particularly damning audio clip, Dr. Patricia Voss could be heard saying, "If the mechanic's daughter becomes seriously ill, he'll be too distracted to fight our acquisition." Sometimes the greatest obstacles require the most creative solutions. By noon, FBI agents were setting up a command post in the Juniper Ridge Community Center. The school's annual fundraising carnival was scheduled for that afternoon, a community event that had been planned for months. Despite the media attention, Principal Latch decided to proceed with the event, perhaps hoping to project normalcy. Kellen attended the carnival with calculated purpose. He positioned himself near the dunking booth where he could watch both the main entrance and Latch's office window. At 2:30 p.m., federal agents arrived at the school with search warrants. Kellen watched through the crowd as agents escorted a visibly shaking Principal Latch from the building in handcuffs. Parents pulled their children closer, whispers rippling through the carnival like wildfire. They found pills in his office, someone behind Kellen said. Pills with poison in them, another voice added. He was going to hurt more kids. The arrest happened in full view of the community, with local news cameras capturing every moment. Latch's reputation, his career, his freedom all destroyed in front of everyone who had trusted him with their children. That evening, as FBI agents continued their investigation, Kellen received a call from Agent Martinez. "Mr. Rhodes, we need to ask you about some recordings we found." "What recordings?" "Audio files showing conversations on your property dating back 3 years. Conversations involving Viacura executives making threats about your refusal to sell." Kellen was quiet for a moment. "I installed a security system when people started pressuring me to sell my business. I thought I might need protection." "You've been recording on your property for 3 years. It's my property. I have the right to protect it. These recordings show that Viacura targeted your daughter specifically because you wouldn't sell to them." "That's what it sounds like." "Mr. Rhodes, why didn't you come forward with these recordings earlier?" "Because I didn't know my daughter was being poisoned until 3 days ago. Once I realized what was happening, I made sure the information got to the right people. Through the journalist. I don't know anything about that. I just know that someone needed to expose the truth." Agent Martinez was quiet for a long moment. "Mr. Rhodes, these recordings are going to be crucial evidence in our case against Viacura. We're going to need your full cooperation." "You have it. I want everyone involved to pay for what they did to my daughter. Everyone. 3 months later, Piper was sitting up in her hospital bed, her hair growing back in patches, but her smile as bright as ever. The thallium had been cleared from her system, and her kidneys were functioning normally. "Dad, can we go home tomorrow? Dr. Talcott says if your blood work looks good, we could go home this weekend. Will you read to me?" Kellen picked up the book they'd been working through together. Where do we leave off? The part where the dragon gets defeated. As he read, Kellen thought about dragons and the people who fought them. The past 3 months have been a whirlwind of federal investigations, arrests, and media attention. Principal Latch had been sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for conspiracy and child endangerment. The evidence found in his office had sealed his fate. Miss Reva Dawson had fled Colorado but was arrested in Arizona 3 weeks later. She'd posted bail and disappeared again before her trial by doctor. Patricia Voss and 4 other Vicura executives were facing federal charges for conducting unauthorized human trials and conspiracy to commit fraud. The company had been shut down permanently, its assets seized by the government. Romy's investigation had earned her a Pulitzer nomination and a job offer from the Washington Post, where she now covered corporate corruption cases. Her book about the Juniper Ridge scandal was due for publication next year. The town itself had been fractured by the revelations. Some families had moved away, unable to trust the institutions that had failed their children. Others had stayed to rebuild, determined to create something better from the ashes. Kellen had become something of a local legend, the mechanic who took on a corporation and won. People treated him differently now, with a mixture of respect and wariness. They'd seen what could happen when someone pushed him too far, and they'd learned that quiet men were often the most dangerous when provoked. But for Kellen, the real victory was simpler than all of that. Dad, you're not reading anymore. Sorry, kiddo. Just thinking. About what? About how lucky I am to have you. Piper smiled and snuggled closer to him. Read about the dragon. 6 months later, Kellen received a call from a private investigator he'd hired to track Reva Dawson's movements. She'd been spotted in Nevada, working at a small diner outside Las Vegas under the name Rebecca Davis. Kellen took 3 days off from the shop and drove west. The Silver Dollar Diner sat on a lonely stretch of highway between Las Vegas and Reno, the kind of place where people went to disappear. Kellen parked across the street and watched through the window as Reva served coffee to truckers and tourists. Her hair dyed blonde, her movements nervous and quick. She'd lost weight since fleeing Colorado. Her face was thinner, older. Prison had left its mark, even during her brief stay. Kellen waited until the evening shift changed, then walked through the diner's front door. The bell above it chimed softly, and Reva looked up from wiping down tables. Recognition hit her like a physical blow. Her face went white, and the dish towel fell from her trembling hands. Hello, Miss Dawson. My name is Rebecca. I think you have me confused with someone else. Kellen sat down at the counter, his movements deliberate and calm. Do I? Because you look exactly like the woman who poisoned my daughter. I don't know what you're talking about. Thallium sulfate. Compound X, 47. Ring any bells? Reva glanced toward the kitchen, probably looking for the manager or another employee. The diner was nearly empty, just one trucker in a back booth and an elderly couple sharing pie near the window. You need to leave. I need to finish what I started. I served my time. I paid for what I did. 6 months in minimum security for poisoning children. Kellen's voice stayed level, conversational. That's not justice. That's not even a good start. Please, I'm trying to rebuild my life. So was my daughter, before you destroyed it. Reva backed toward the kitchen door. I'll call the police. Go ahead. Tell them Kellen Rhodes is here. Tell them about Juniper Ridge. See how much they want to help you. What do you want? Kellen stood up slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. I want you to understand something. You hurt my little girl. You took money to poison children. You thought you could hide behind lawyers and plea bargains and fake names. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry for what happened. Sorry doesn't fix nerve damage. Sorry doesn't give back lost childhoods. Then what? What do you want from me? Kellen walked around the counter, closing the distance between them. I want you to know that there's nowhere you can go where I won't find you. No name you can use that I won't discover. No life you can build that I won't tear down. You can't do this. You can't stalk me forever. Watch me. Reva's back hit the kitchen door. Someone will stop you. Who? The same people who let you walk free after 6 months? The same system that let you disappear instead of facing real consequences. Please. Kellen stopped just inches from her face. You didn't think I was done, did you? The question hung in the air between them, heavy with promise and threat. Reva's breath came in short, panicked gasps. Every time you think you're safe, Kellen continued. Every time you start to believe you can move on, I'll be there to remind you what you are. A child poisoner. A monster who sold kids lives for money. I was following orders. So were the guards at concentration camps. That's not the same thing, isn't it? You took innocent children and fed them poison. You watched them get sick and kept giving them more. You're exactly the same. Riva slid along the wall, try to put distance between them. I'll get a restraining order. Good luck with that. I haven't threatened you. I haven't touched you. I'm just a customer who recognized someone from the news. This is harassment. This is justice. Kellen stepped back, his point made. Enjoy your new life, Rebecca. I'll be watching. He walked toward the door, then turned back one final time. Oh, and Miss Dawson, next time you run, pick somewhere warmer. Nevada gets cold at night. The bell chimed again as he left, leaving Riva alone with the weight of knowing she would never truly escape what she'd done. Outside, Kellen climbed into his truck and started the engine. In his rearview mirror, he could see Riva through the diner window, standing frozen in the exact spot where he'd left her. Some storms, he thought, never really ended. They just moved from place to place, touching down wherever justice was needed most. That he drove home to his daughter.